Sufficient.
Is sufficient. Paul's able to be quiet in that because he understands what God's grace is. Because through those beatings, God got him through. Through the time he had to run from city to city, God saved his life. Through the time he was sitting there shipwrecked and been bitten by a multi viper, God persevered and saved him right there. So Paul understands what it is to live in the grace of God. Church, we need to understand the same thing. That everything ain't always going to be what we think it's going to be. You know, that's why nowadays when I look up and I see things just going totally great for people. And a lot of times people will tell you, oh, everything is just going great. Sometimes I have a hard time believing that. Amen, Wall. Because I know no man is immune to the wages of sin. I know that no man is immune to trouble in your life. You know, even if you got trouble, it's not bad to admit this thing. It's not bad to say, hey, it's trouble there, but God is still good. God's going to get me through whatever may come. You know, sometimes people get a little too happy about things of this life. And sometimes they act like they don't have any problems. You know, you talk to some people like, well, I ain't got no problems. God's blessed me. For real? Okay, that's good. But then you realize you keep on going down the road, you keep looking and watching these problems begin to still mount up. But sometimes people don't act like problems are bad. You see, when problems come in your life, church, it's not a bad thing to acknowledge them being there. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people say, oh, don't pay attention to that. To say it's not there is a lie, honestly. You don't have to say it. If there's trouble in your life, it's just showing you something. You're still alive. Because if you meet a Christian and a Christian ain't been through a struggle, ain't struggling or about to struggle, something ain't right. Because I believe there's something that's supposed to happen along our Christian walk. And one thing that is we're going to suffer for the cause of Christ. If we ain't suffering, something ain't right. If we ain't going through a little bit of something, I ain't saying that something that's bad got to happen to everybody every day, but we as Christians need to know what it is to suffer. Why is it? Because Christ told us it's going to happen. Because if you don't know what it is to suffer through some stuff, when suffering comes, you're going to run away. You're going to forsake the Lord and leave him alone. Because see, if it wasn't for suffering, we wouldn't understand what grace is. Pain helps us understand what it is to feel good. Amen, Lord. You know what? If you wasn't lost, you would know what it is to be saved. Amen. See, a lot of times people don't realize this thing. If you don't know what it is to be in a down position, how do you know when you're up? Paul's trying to tell these folks that these other people that came around who try to hoodwink and bamboozle them and make them think that everything is hunky-dory and look at us, paying us, and give us the money, we just going to live lavish off of you, and everything looks good, but they ain't talking about how they've been through stuff. But Paul can say in post and in stuff, Paul can come around and say, hey, I'm a Jew just like they're a Jew. I'm a Hebrew like they're a Hebrew. I'm an Israelite like they're an Israelite. What is different than us? The difference is what we're preaching. And another place it tells us they ain't going through what I'm going through. They haven't been persecuted like I've been persecuted. They haven't been chased from city to city. They haven't been in danger by the bandits and in danger in the country and in the city. They haven't been doing the things I've been doing. They haven't been shackled and chained and taken the road for preaching the gospel of Christ. He said they haven't been killed and martyred like us. They haven't been doing these things. Therefore, there's something the matter with the message. Because Paul understood if you weren't preaching these things back then, that if you were preaching the real gospel of Christ, it would get you killed. Well, he understood that. And honestly, today, when people are really preaching the gospel, a lot of folks don't want to hear it. Amen. When you're really teaching about living and about living in this life, folks don't want to hear that. A lot of times. You see, I'm not all about just teaching about church. I want you to understand what church is outside this building. You know, it's one thing for you to sit and defend our premise all day long. It don't help you. It doesn't help you for me to do that. That's why I try to help you understand what it is to live under God's grace. That even though your aches and your pains are going on, you still got a reason to live. Why? Not because of your reason, but because of God. It's not your will, but God's will that you live today. Because that's His grace. He woke you up this morning because of His grace. What do we say grace was? It's a favor. A favor bestowed upon us that we did not do anything for it. None of us went to God a long time ago and said, God, prepare me a body, I want to live. No, we didn't. We couldn't help when we got here. But by God's grace, we were born into this world. Amen. By God's grace, our parents raised us with some kind of sense. Amen. By God's grace, some of us became adults, and we may have even raised our own kids. But it wasn't nothing about anything we did. You can't predict when you're going to have a child. You can't even bring that child forth healthy if you want it healthy. But it's about what? God's grace. Even when that child comes, he may be sick. Can you do anything about it? When the doctors are giving up, can you do anything about it? But who can? God. It's grace. Grace right there. That's what it means to live with enough grace. That when you understand when all else has failed, and then nothing you can do, what do you have to do? Give it to God. Because His grace is sufficient. No matter what you may try to do, you can't do what God's grace is going to do. God knows what He's going to do, when He's going to do it, how He's going to work. Because sometimes as Christians, we like to force the issue on things. And we like to pressure things. It ain't for you to pressure. It ain't never been for us to pressure. I remember when I was a child, we were always taught to keep on pounding and keep on pounding the gospel in people's heads. But that ain't biblical. The biblical thing to do is, brother, you plant. I'll water, but who gives the increase? God. His grace is enough. He didn't tell us to keep on preaching that you can't preach no more, and then they'll get it. But that's what a lot of us try to do. We'll stand here on Sunday morning and halfway leave your horse. Think we're going to bring everybody to Christ. But it's not about us doing it. It's about letting God's grace soak into your heart. Letting you understand that without God, you wouldn't be anything. That what you are is because of His grace. Why? Because it's sufficient. Through your weaknesses, His power is made complete. You know, I asked myself one day, I said, Brother Kenzo, why do people like me? Because I said, I'm not really a good person. I'm not that nice of a person. Why do people continue to always want to flock to me? I never could understand that question. And I would ask people, what do you see in me that you like so much? Oh, Angus, you just so much. I'm like, I'm not that nice. Oh, you just are such a good person. I'm not that good. I don't understand it. I think I'm condescending at times. I can be snappy and moody. If you weren't no sure what I was, you'd probably think I was on a mental problem. Because I'm so moody, I'm swinging back and forth sometimes. And I'm thinking, why do people want to be with me all the time? Why do I attract so many people? I couldn't understand that. And I would say, sometimes I'll be saying things, people start laughing like that wasn't really that funny. Why are you laughing? And I'm thinking to myself, Lord have mercy, what is going on? Why do people want to be around me? I said, if I wasn't me, I wouldn't want to be around me. Then I thought about this passage right here. It's not about me. It's about the one working through me. It's about the one transforming me. It's about the one who said, I made you. Let me mold you. It's not about anything that Angus did. Why do people keep coming? Because God keeps bringing them. Why? Because His grace is sufficient. It's not about me having power on the hill, but through my weaknesses, through my snappiness, God still works. Because some people find it funny. Through my sometimes dry sense of humor, folks find it humorous. But I think they're weaknesses. But in those weaknesses, I've watched God work in my life. I've watched how God has worked through a lot of things in my life and has brought a lot of people to the Lord because of some weaknesses I have. Because it's not about me. It's not about me. You see, it's about God working through you. And church, I'm going to let you know right now, a lot of folks over the years, we've been taught that we always got to be halfway perfect for God to even want to mess with us. Yes. That's not true. Remember I told you, God will take you as you are. Yes. He'll take you in your weakest state. Because in your weakness, Paul said, I am made strong. Yes. He said, I may not be able to speak like these other apostles talk. I may not be as eloquent as they are. He said, but when I am weak, God can make me strong. Right. I have a lot of weaknesses, but in those weaknesses, God works through those weaknesses, and He's been able to make me strong. Right. You know, I can't boast and say that I got strong with my own means and my own way, but no, it had to be through God. Because Lord knows I've been through some things in my life. And I ain't gonna lie, there have been times I was kind of like Paul, asking God, why don't you just take this away from me? And in times you keep on praying that same prayer to God, why don't you make this work the way I want it to work, God? And then you have to hear what Paul had to hear. My grace is sufficient. My power is made manifest through your weaknesses. So Paul says, so I will go on to continue to boast in my sufferings. Because it's not about the things I have done to these sufferings to be caused, but it's about the work of God through these sufferings. Right. So remember that when you're going through things in life, remember that you got enough grace to get through it. You got enough grace to get through it. No matter what is happening, when your kids lose their mind and go crazy, you can cry, it's all right. Go ahead and cry.